Hey, good morning, everybody. So today we have a medium temp, low temp. This is a dual temperature case, and the call for this case was that it was running too warm. However, if you can see right now, there's cheese in here, so that's supposed to be medium temp. And it looks like we're running 10 degrees. So that automatically tells me that either this case is not set up properly on the dual temp switch, which I doubt, and it tells me that we probably have an EPR problem. So their little thing says about 8 degrees or so, and this one says about 8 degrees. So I think our EPR is just not closing all the way. We're gonna have to go check the board and the valve and see what's going on. So let's go ahead and go check that out. Alright guys, so here is our E2. You go to alarms. Today's the 24th. So the alarm came in initially as a high temp, and then it went to low temp. Oh wait, never mind, that's A06. Never mind. So AB03 came in as a low temp, so it always came in as a too cold. See, right now it's running at 24 degrees because I have it in defrost. And as you can see, this valve is at 0%. I should have showed you a minute ago, it was at 0%. This thing was at 8 degrees still. Sometimes these valves, what'll happen is you might have to reset the ESR board, and these valves will respond better. This one right here. But usually once you do that, that valve is probably on its way out. So usually what we do is, if we find a valve that you have to reset the board and you get it working right, we've always known that within like a week or two, somebody else has to go back for the same problem, and then they do the same thing, and then somebody else has to go back and change the valve. So now what I started doing is, whenever I see a valve start messing around, I usually just change that valve. I'm still gonna go up to the rack and verify what kind of valve it is, and we're gonna verify that that valve is set up properly on this controller. So let's go ahead and do that. And here we are, guys. We went to our ESR board. So ESR is our electronic suction regulating board. Valve number 5, it has a 200 step rate, 6386 step count. So if I'm not mistaken, that's like a CDS 17 or I think from a 9 to 17. I'd have to look it up. I'm not an expert, but we'll see if the valve up there matches this step rate. 6386. And here we are at the rack. As you can see right here, circuit AB03. And if we look at that valve, it is CDS T9. I believe, I haven't even looked it up, but I believe 9 through 17 is 6386. The other CDSs smaller are 2500 steps. You can reset this board, and that'll usually reset the valves. It'll open them all the way, close them all the way, just so it can find it's pretty much its step count. I'm gonna get some information on Sporlan about the resistance on the windings, and we're gonna go ahead and check that out while we're here. And if it is funky, then we're just gonna go ahead and replace it. I went ahead and started searching up Sporlan. So if you see right here, it says right here the valves, the 2, 4, and 7 provide 2500 steps, while the larger CDS 9, 16, and 17 provide 6386 steps. Phase resistance, this is for your CDS 247. You need to be at about 100 ohms per winding. There's 2 windings on each motor. And right here, for CDS valves number 9 through 17, we need to be at 75 ohms plus or minus 10%. So this is valve 5. Right here. All right, let's go ahead and check the resistance real quick. All right, guys, here we go. So this is our first winding, white and black. We have 78 ohms of resistance. That is still within tolerance. So let's go ahead and check the other 2. And here is the other, Lee, shut up. Here's the other winding resistance, also 78, 79 ohms. So that is not out of range. So let's go ahead and put this back together. Resetting that board actually reset the valve. You know, it opens it and closes it, finds its, you know, step count. and then we'll be good to go. So but like I said, guys, this is more of a I've seen it before deal. Yes, the resistance is good. Yes, the valve is closing. Yes, the valve is opening. But I guarantee you that if I say that I reset the board, somebody will be out here in a week changing that valve out. So we're gonna go pick up that valve. It's a CDST9. All we're worried about is the head. We don't even worry about the body. We'll probably do it with about maybe about 10 psi in the line set. That way you don't have to pull a vacuum. All right, so we got what is that, like 10 psi or 15 psi or so. There she goes.
Some of it.
Oh yeah, we definitely still got pressure in here. Even though 5 psi is not a lot, it's enough to prevent you from having to pull a vacuum. You still got positive pressure. There we go. Woo. All right, guys, so we got the new valve in. Got it tightened up. Got to throw some soap bubbles in here in a minute, but we still had some pressure, so we don't need to pull a vacuum, so that's good. Now, while he's doing that, let me show you something I found here real quick. You see my liquid out, it says 50 or 150. I don't know if the camera's catching that. So it's an alarm, liquid out, 150 degrees. That usually means that one of the sensors is bad. So I'm gonna have to find a Sporlan 3K sensor in my van. And this is a subcooler. I know you guys have heard me talk about it before. Well, right now this sensor right here is not reading. This is the one that's reading 150 degrees, and that's not right. So we're more than likely gonna have to change this sensor. And the reason this is very important, even though I'm not on this service call for this subcooler right now, look at these compressors. These compressors have been running hot for a long time, and mainly because, like I've said before, you see right here, this is the vapor injection. So this is actually me. I put an override on the EEV and I just let it run at 20%. It was a little excessive because we do have a little bit of liquid coming back. However, when this subcooler is operating properly, your suction gas, your cool suction gas, goes back in here and it feeds your compressors. Vapor injection right there. And that is what cools your compressor. So this subcooler wasn't working. That's why you have this right here. These compressors have been running really hot. So I'm gonna have to fix this. Even though I'm not on this service call, I have to fix that. If we look at our Sporlan subcool manual for our subcooler controller, it'll tell you right here that your 33, 34, 35 is your transducer, 31, 32 is your evaporator outlet, and then 29 and 30 are your liquid outlet. That's what we're looking for, 29 and 30. It's this one right here. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off and put our meter on it to see if it's an open sensor. And then we're gonna go check it out at the sensor itself. Maybe we just have a break in the line. All right, guys, now this is a great indicator right here. You see how liquid out now says -60? Whenever you see -60, that generally means that you have an open sensor. Especially right now, we don't have a sensor there. That's a pretty good indicator you have an open sensor. Put it right there. Yep.
Oh, further?
Yeah. So here's that sensor, 3K Sporlan. You see, look at the size of this one.
Smaller?
Yeah. Let me see the new one. Look, and look at the size of the new ones. So Sporlan must have updated these because I hadn't seen these. I've only seen these. And right here you see Sporlan Type 3K. And then these are the new ones that came in. Sporlan Surface 3K. All right, boys, sensors in, and instead of hooking it up back to this wire and having connections, we're just gonna run it straight. We'll put some zip ties in here in a minute, but we're just gonna run it straight all the way back, and we're gonna connect it to the controller and see what happens. All right, guys, so liquid out, 52 degrees. I believe our set point is 50 or 55. As long as that subcooler is actually working, we'll be able to get cool gas fed to our compressors right here on the backside, and we'll avoid all this. Look, this has been running really hot. Look at that. This is melted paint. So, and I remember I'm the one that put in that subcooler controller a couple months back. Hi guys, she's sticking around 50, 48. So that's good. We're not flooding back, and the compressors can now get some cool gas to cool down. We are gonna go ahead and call this a day. All right, guys, that was the end of the service call. At this point, we're gonna get out of here. I just want to say one thing before we do. Number one, I'm gonna address why I changed the CDS valve, and you guys are probably thinking, well, if your resistance was good, you know, why did you change it? The reason is because we have had several calls where somebody will get called out a call exactly like this. They'll reset the ESR board. The valve works fine for about 2 or 3 days, and then we'll get another call that the case is too cold or the case is too warm, and you can reset the ESR board again, and it'll work again, and eventually by the third time, a week later, you have to replace that CDS valve. So we've done that in the past several times, and this is one of those times where I'm just not going to let it happen. I'm going to change that valve today. I did change that valve today. Now, the second thing about that valve is a lot of you guys are going to say, well, why didn't you change the body, right? Well, that valve was not bleeding by. The way you would know if it's bleeding by is if you close it 100% and you still get a pressure buildup, or in my case, what I do is I'll close that valve 100%. I'll close it down to 0%, and then I'll put that case in hot gas defrost. What'll happen is if that valve is bleeding by, you'll see your suction start rising on the rack. And I did that, it didn't happen, so there's no reason to change the body of it. If you guys look, the seat right in here, if that seat was messed up and the valve was bleeding by, then I would definitely have changed the body. This is actually an 1 1/8. The one inside on the circuit was a 7/8. So the head's the same. It's just the body would have been, the tubes would have been different. But anyways, that's why I didn't change the body, and that is exactly why I changed that valve, because it's happened to us several times in the past, and today I just got ahead of it, and I guarantee you the customer's gonna thank us for not coming back 3 different times and having callbacks. Number 2, I just wanted to address that the subcooler, that was not on my service call. That was not, I guess you could say I wasn't even supposed to mess with it, but why would I not fix it if it's a sensor, just like it was? Eventually that call will come in, maybe a compressor will die or cases will start struggling because the subcooler's not working. There's no point. I'm already on site. I know it was a sensor. I picked up a sensor from the supply house. I didn't have one on my truck. And as soon as I did, subcooler started working. Gave it about 10 minutes. That valve found its center. It's a nice little smooth spot. Superheat was like at 12 degrees. Liquid outlet was at like 50. Compressors were happy. They were getting cool gas. So I just decided to fix it while I was on spot. I mean, work order's already there. Just might as well fix it, right? But anyways, I just wanted to address that before all these comments come in as to your resistance was good, why did you change it, or why did you do this? Dude, it's just a matter of experience. I've seen it a few times where you're just eventually gonna have to come back and change that valve, so might as well knock it out day one. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys on the next call.